Tonight, the sheriff's office in Jacksonville, Florida, is in the hot seat, blamed for a pattern of excessive force after the release of a disturbing video like this, showing a woman taken down by officers 3 times in one day. They say Myra Martinez was drunk when they arrested her, refusing to leave the gentleman's club where it was her first day on the job. When she resisted, the officer's video shows they wailed on her. Handcuffed at jail, she kicks at an officer and gets hit herself several times. This time she says she was knocked unconscious, and the officer who hit her explained why.
What happened?
From there, she just keeps being disorderly, irate, belligerent, yelling, saying, "I'm gonna come after you, your family, you guys are all wrong. Y'all arrested the wrong person," and basically what most people who have been arrested do.
Well, not most people do, but probably intoxicated people is what you're trying to say.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So
there's other officers there that take note of her behavior as well.
Police say they reacted quickly, firing that officer the very next day and charging him with battery because the answer to belligerence is not a beatdown.
He could have turned her around and held her in a transporting position that they are trained in, back over to the location to wait by the door. He could have stood there with her, but there was no need to strike her.
But that wasn't all. Martinez says she was knocked around a 3rd time by another officer who was trying to remove her nose ring. Now she's got a lawyer going after the sheriff, saying he's allowed this kind of treatment and it needs to stop. But is it completely his or even the officer's fault? With me tonight, Roger Henderson. He is the news director for WBOB in Jacksonville, Florida. Thank you for joining us. There are 3 different sites that this happened. The first is outside a gentleman's club. Let's go over that. Roger, what happened there?
Well, this young lady, who was 26 years old at the time, but apparently accepted a new job at a gentleman's club, had a few drinks and became intoxicated.
A few drinks. Hold on. A few drinks. Specifically, 4 shots of 100 proof alcohol, right?
Yes, that is what is being reported. And in addition to that, they're saying there's a possibility that she may have even been slipped drugs involuntarily, and that even, added to her state of inebriation.
Right. So here we're seeing the officer strike, and he strikes her a lot. Why did he do that? What did she do before the video began to roll?
Well, they were trying to get her off the property. Apparently, the owner's management of the gentleman's club wanted her to be forcibly removed by police because she would not leave voluntarily. And I can only assume she was resisting arrest and not cooperating with the officer's request that she leave the property. And I think they probably let their emotions get the best of them, to be honest with you.
We heard that she was kicking. We just saw that in the video. We also heard that she was biting at some point, using, I think, her arms before they put her in the restraint. So she was fighting this, no question about it. So then they take her to the intake area. Let's go to that video for a second. All right, there's the intake area. And this now we're coming into what looks like the 3rd episode. They're having her, they're doing a search, getting her clothes off, and then they want the nose ring off. She doesn't want to comply with that. So there we see the female officer. And the other officers move in to get that nose ring off. Okay? I want to go with John Phillips because he is the attorney. He has done many, many high-profile cases. He is now representing this young woman as the attorney. Talk to us about your civil suit that you are bringing now because of these 3 episodes. What are you alleging in this suit?
Hi, Gene. How are you? So we're starting with a pure and simple 1983 breach of civil rights case. And we're also alleging state law claims under Florida law for battery and just overall gross misconduct by these officers, particularly Officer Borisati.
Right. And this officer, Borisati, was fired. He was charged with battery. I noticed that you are suing the sheriff, but as an individual, are you suing the sheriff? And if so, why not the city and the department itself?
We alleged it as federal law requires. In the state of Florida, particularly in the city of Jacksonville, you have to allege against Sheriff Mike Williams as the sheriff. So it's in his official capacity. It's as if we're suing Jacksonville Sheriff's Office in the city. It's nothing for personal wrongdoing of Sheriff Williams.
So it's procedural.
It's how we have to allege it. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. Your client, tell us about her. She was on the first day of the job at the Gentlemen's Club, and she drank a lot of alcohol. What, did she quit? Did she walk out? Did they ask her to leave? How did this all begin?
Right. So they fed her shots to quote unquote loosen her up. Again, this is the Gentlemen's Club atmosphere, and then she doesn't really remember. She remembers being in the back room, the VIP room, so to speak, and somebody getting handsy with her, and she kind of said, no, that's not how I do this. And she complained to the management, and the management took the customer's side and got belligerent with her. And as you'll see in my complaint, there's a host of back and forth. But essentially, they forced her to leave without her purse, which had not only a change of clothes, but her ID, her key, her house keys, and all of her personal items. So they kicked her out, but said, no, we're keeping your purse. So it's hard to trespass somebody when you don't give them the ability to leave.
Okay. So she's in the parking lot. Officers arrive. They tell her she needs to get off the property. She's drunk, highly intoxicated. We see her kick. Did she actually try to bite the officer?
The officer in the interview says that there was no biting, but she was upset, and her actions, she didn't act like she should have acted. We're supposed to respect law enforcement, but they took it way too far with the pummeling she got in the parking lot. And then, more importantly, what happened at the pretrial detention facility, where she was, again, asking for a lawyer, telling her... Yeah,
let's look at this video. Sorry to interrupt you. I really want the audience to see this video at the intake area of the Sheriff's Department, because I watched the video in full, and she stands there, John, for almost an hour. And right. She's just standing there, but I can tell that she is being, and it's not that video, it's the intake video. I can tell that she is being very verbally aggressive with the officers. What's she saying during that almost an hour?
She, like some inmates who've maybe had a couple of drinks, they talk about wanting a lawyer, and they talk about what they're going to do to you. We're going to sue you, and you've arrested the wrong girl, and asking why she was arrested. The African-American fellow inmate in there, there's also a video of her being interrogated.
This is the video right here. Watch this. Everybody watch this. Okay, he puts her back in her place, she kicks, and then he hits. Repeatedly. Yes.
And then she'll slump down eventually. Obviously, I don't have the advantage of seeing the monitor, but she'll slump down, and they will leave her there, slumped down, unconscious, not moving for 15 minutes, and then an ambulance will come up, and the very same officer that hit her tells the ambulance to go away, that he refuses her medical care.
All right,
it's
with
appalling.
Us, watching this video along with all of us is Darren Porcher. You are a retired NYPD lieutenant. First of all, I want to ask you, this officer was fired from one day to the next.
Right.
Was that right? Should he have been afforded administrative leave to hear? I mean, they did interview him, but was it right to fire him from one day to the next? Can you do that?
Well, it's really dependent upon the contractual agreement within that union that department has. Was this an at-will termination? This was the sheriff's department. Generally speaking, the sheriff's department have different provisions in hiring than the municipal police departments, such, I give you an example, is the NYPD, for example. So at this stage, it's really difficult to tell. But one thing that's consistent, oftentimes, when you see officers that commit acts such as felonies, they're terminated immediately. And I don't want to say that this was a felony, but this was a very serious assault that occurred.
When you have someone in custody that is kicking, allegedly biting or spitting, verbally aggressive, I guess you just have to take that. But what should the officer have done in these circumstances?
Well, the first thing we need to remember is the police officer should be the avid professional. And being the avid professionals, one of the things that you want to exercise is your usage of the minimum use of force necessary. You have an assortment of non-lethal means that you can use on an individual, such as pepper spray, things to that effect, or even a taser in a drive-stun mode for that matter. That's when you quote-unquote see the electricity that just launches into a person and it temporarily disables the person. I think that that would have been the better course of action in restraining this particular individual as opposed to a series of punches, so to speak. Because this is, when you look at someone being punched, you can inflict a long-term series of damage on that person.
Right. Let's listen right now to Boris Sadi. He was, this is Sheriff's Officer Boris Sadi. He was fired the day after this happened. But let's listen to what he has to say in his own defense here.
What does the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office policy and procedures state about suspects that are handcuffed? Are we allowed to strike them?
Yes, sir.
In what way? Because she was handcuffed, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And did you strike her?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did you strike her with an open hand or a closed fist?
Close fist.
Do you remember the amount of times you struck her?
I believe it was 3.
Okay. Where did you strike her at?
In the stomach.
So he admits a lot, Margie Moe, defense attorney. He admits a lot here. Do you believe that it was right to fire him and immediately charge him with battery, which is what they did?
Absolutely, but it's my understanding that he pled to an assault, which really bothers me because this was clearly a battery. I understand that she kicked him, but she couldn't even defend herself. She's handcuffed, and he's just losing control of himself and throwing punch after punch and inflicting injury on her. And I'm especially bothered by the fact that when she's in the room and they're doing the strip search, she appears to be cooperating, and then all of a sudden they just yank her by the hair and start beating her again. This appears to be a policy that they have in this department, and they're rightfully getting sued under 1383.
Right. John Phillips, is this one bad officer, or do you believe that the training shows that it's rampant in the entire department?
Unfortunately, we're seeing more and more aggressive officers in Jacksonville. This is my hometown, and there's a lot going on. And one thing that's really telling as you do a deep dive about this is 2 officers say, the cameras, don't punch her because of the cameras. Not don't punch her, but don't punch her because of the cameras. And that was the most disturbing part of this for me is that says that these cops are taught to avoid inflicting injury on suspects when cameras are around.
Very interesting comment. You're right. State of mind shows right there, doesn't it? Thank you very much.